I don't want a pickle. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is the Noco Moto Podcast, episode number... This might be 270. It's 269 or 270. And this will be, perhaps, our first YouTube episode. Who knows? It really depends how well this camera is going to work. We've pulled a lot of strings. I didn't suck any dicks at Moto One Podcast Network Studios, but I guess someone did on our behalf, and we got a 13-year-old GoPro Hero 4.
It's actually a Hero 3.
It says 4 on the front of it.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it's a 4 silver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I could have brought my Cena in, and then there's just like half of a helmet sitting here.
Look, I came very close to using the Moto One Podcast Network company expense card at Micro Center today to just buy a $200 drone that could just float in the center of the room. And I got to tell you, I'm not completely still against doing that.
If you had bought that drone, I would have hit it with a baseball bat before the night ends.
So anyway, if this does make it to YouTube in probably the very terrible video quality, this is the Tiki Room. We're going to wait, I think. And Mike, you have a gimbal. So maybe if this goes up for our next episode, we could do a little bit of a Tiki Room tour.
Oh, sure.
You know, maybe we could have a little making tiki drinks with Pete sort of thing behind the bar. And
I do have one kind of outdated video of on our only social media, which is my Instagram. The only thing that comes up if you Google this show is a very
the show itself
video.
Comes up. Mike.
Yeah, okay,
but yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we're here in the Tiki Room, episode 270. I'm just going to call it. We all have a drink. I have made us Mai Tais.
Cheers.
So we're having proper Mai Tais, the Trader Vic's recipe right here, with homemade orgeat, don't you know? It's Bacardi Silver Rum with Myers Dark Rum on top, if that sort of thing is important to you.
Yeah, this is my second tiki drink of the day.
Oh, that's right. You coincidentally went to that place in Loveland today.
The Big Kahuna.
Yeah, now all of a sudden, like, including the Tiki Room here, like, Northern Colorado has 4 tiki bars all of a sudden.
That we know of. Maybe there are more tiki-sies.
There are other
hiding.
places that claim to be tiki bars, but the tiki-easy here is a lot. Like, Podcast Network, Moto One Podcast Network Studios Recording Suite A is way more of a tiki bar than a lot of these places. There are some places that just throw up a big vinyl like thing on the bar and a little bit of fake grass like around the karaoke stage, and they call themselves a tiki bar. I feel that I need to point out that Caribbean is not tiki.
Caribbean influenced tiki some. Tiki is just
not at all.
Tiki's everything.
No, it isn't. Tiki. I don't need to get into the history of what is and isn't tiki, but there are few things less tiki than Jimmy Buffett. Let me put it that way. So anyway, here we are in the Tiki Room, and we haven't even done introductions yet. I am your host, MotoGP. With me is your other host, Swiggy.
Yo.
And your other host, Dr. Mike Action.
Hey.
And today we have a couple things. It might be a shorter episode. We're not sure. We're going to see how long the camera batteries last. This is a little bit of an experiment. So if the video goes out after 45 minutes, because this is a very old battery, you're just going to look at show logo for a while. We are going to do best worst bike in the world this week. And then I want to talk about myths that people have about their specific motorcycle. So, not motorcycling myths at large. Myths that, when you're talking to someone about their bike, things they will tell you about their bike or their friend group's bikes. Swigs, it doesn't work because you're standing on the cough box.
No, I know. It's just there's a lot of background noise on mine. But never mind.
It's a very sensitive condenser, yes. Anyway, so right, here we go. It's time. We're just going right into best worst bike in the world this week because we've wasted enough time already.
Let's do it.
All right, for all of our new YouTube viewers, all 7 of you that there's going to be, this is best worst bike in the world this week. This is what we are famous for in some circles of iTunes, which is Swigs and I have each chosen a motorcycle. We don't know what each other have chosen. It's always a surprise. If you have thoughts, feelings, and questions about what the best or the worst bike in the world is this week, you can subscribe to the audio podcast, and you can click in the show notes the little deal to send us a text, or you can always send a question, comment, or anything you want. Doesn't have to be important to where, Dr. Mike?
Contact at nocomotopodcast.com.
Bangarang. All right, Swigs, you have best bike in the world this week.
I do.
And are you ready to reveal it?
I am.
All right, and the best bike in the world this week is
the 2006 to 2007 Ducati ST3.
I have been curious about the ST3 for years. The ST3 was one of the first generation of bikes with the Testastretta motor. Is that correct?
Nope.
It's still air-cooled?
Okay, so it's an interesting little thing. One sec. I lost the page. I can't remember which one it is. Okay, so this bike has the same base motor as the Multistrada 1000 DS, but it has been significantly decrapified. So, let me just pull up those other stats, because that'll come in handy later. But, basically, few interesting things about this bike. So, this frame is the original, Multistrada DS frame. That horrendous bike that nobody liked, including us. It's the same basic motor, and what they did is they basically rebuilt the motor and then put a full fairing on the bike.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that it was basically a sportified Multistrada.
Right. So essentially,
I thought it was a little bit more like a touring-ified SS bike.
Well, by Ducati standards, it is, because it's got the Multistrada riding position. So this is not a no compromises sport bike. Okay. This is a bike that you can actually kind of sit more upright on.
Really?
And it has a bigger, it's got a taller windshield on it than a normal Ducati does. It's much more approachable and usable as an everyday bike.
Yeah, I know to you, Mike, this looks total crotch rocket. We'll have to look at some other photos of it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that tank would be jabbing you in the diaphragm if you were laying
this
down
is a very tall tank. Very tall tank.
It's also a very large tank.
It is pretty
huge.
big. Yeah. Well, this is also a thirsty bike. So in order for a Ducati to become touring, they have to make the tanks very large.
Here's the thing. So the original, so it's that 992cc motor that was air-cooled on the Multistrada. So this is liquid-cooled. Not only is it liquid-cooled, they upped the compression from 10.5 to 11.3 to 1.
So mid grade fuel might be justified on this bike.
The top RPMs is 750 RPMs higher, so it goes from 8,000 max power on the original to 8,750, and it went from 85 horsepower and 70 foot-pounds of torque to 107 horsepower and 72 foot-pounds of torque.
Why? To carry more stuff? Like, how much can you fit in those panniers?
They're not super huge, but I mean...
Well, this is also quite a big bike. This is the same wheelbase as your Superhawk. So they're not huge bags, but they're decently sized.
Yeah, so first of all, Mike, when you look at these sort of European sport tour bikes, if you're taking a tour of Italy, right? Like, how many miles are you actually going?
Yeah.
So that's the other thing about this bike. This bike actually gets decent fuel economy for a Ducati. So this bike has a 5.5 gallon fuel tank, and it gets 40 miles to the gallon. So
40 miles per gallon out of a duck is pretty good. So
now the thing about the motor is, so this bike originally started as the ST2, which was just basically a slightly modified version of the original DS motor. Then they made an ST4 after that, where it went up to 4-valve. But then, because they're still reusing these old motors, and they're just trying to keep them going and sell them all off, well, emissions changed. And then they released the ST3. And this is a 3-valve Desmo motor called the Desmo Tray.
Oh, okay. So again, Mike, like the things about this bike that you need to know is, again, like Swig said, it is much taller than your average Ducati. You could think of most Ducatis being about the size of my Superhawk, right? You remember that bike?
Yeah. I also rode your dad's Ducati, and that was just your.
This is significantly taller. The seat's going to be several inches taller than that. This is going to be, again, the handlebars, it doesn't look like it, but they're several inches higher. If you see a picture of someone riding this, yes, they're leaned forward, but it's probably less aggressive than the cafe bars on your Royal Enfield.
How would it compare to the Monster?
Which one?
I mean, it depends which Monster. Yeah. But I would say this is less aggressive than a Monster.
Really?
Yeah. So it's got a bigger motor. Well, again, it depends which Monster you're talking about, but it'd be a bigger motor than the Monster that was around when it came out. Ducati wasn't, so when this bike came out, this would have been what year, Jonathan? Like early 2000s?
I think the first, like the ST2 came out in like 99. This one came out in 2005.
Right. So when this came out, the big obsession, adventure bikes hadn't really hit big yet. They were starting to a little bit, but what was really big at this time were hyper tourers.
Right.
It was all about ST1300s. It was all about Hayabusas. It was all about ZX14s and Kawasaki Concourses. It was all about hyper tours, not even super, hyper tours, like well over 1200 cc's and up, upwards of 160 horsepower sport touring bikes. And so Ducati needed to do something in that range. So this is kind of big, but it's not big like an ST1300 or a Kawasaki Concourse is a shockingly large bike when you see one in person. They are substantial. this is sort of in between your average Ducati and one of those bikes. So Ducati said, look, we make light motorcycles. We are famous for keeping the weight the fuck down. We don't do big, heavy, bulbous bikes for no reason. It's still got to make its way around a track reasonably well to be a Ducati. Unless it's a Diavel, I guess. But you get the point. So what's interesting here is that Ducati, you basically, like, people say, like, oh, I love my Multistrada, even my first gen Multistrada. And I've heard that they are very nice bikes to ride. But yeah, if you look at this, you see how big and kind of upright that front fairing and that headlight is right there.
A good reference point is that this bike is around the same size as my Futura.
Okay.
Same wheelbase.
This has a lot more to do with Jonathan's Norge than it does, say, like your Buell.
Okay.
It is quick, although it's not the quickest bike in the world. It is quick for being in the touring category, and it is light for being in the touring category.
It is also particularly quick as well because they massively reduced the gear ratio. They massively shortened all the gears just to make it accelerate better. And they probably took a significant hit to highway fuel economy just to make it go faster.
And top speed, yeah.
And top speed, yeah, just to make it go faster.
Or go faster up to about 110 anyway.
Yeah.
So this has been kind of looked down upon for a long time as kind of not a real Ducati for a couple reasons.
Yeah,
One,
I can see the bars in the single, and they're not what I would call like super sport bars. Like you can tell it's more upright.
well, they're my favorite kind of handlebars.
Actually, they're
They
everyone's
are
favorite
clip-on
bars.
risers.
Not only that, the stock bars from factory with just a hex wrench, they're adjustable 2 inches up and down.
Oh, so nice. So when you talk to Ducati people, when they talk about a real Ducati, one of the first things they want is a single-sided swing arm, which this does not have. When you're talking about a real Ducati, this does have the double front discs, but I want to say there's something about they complain about the rear tire size on these. They complain about there's something else big that they complain about. It's not the air cooling. Does this one have a wet or dry clutch?
It's a dry clutch.
Okay, it's not that. Well, really, the swing arm's the biggest problem that Ducati people have with it. But it's also just not a straight-up super sport motorcycle. Like, even though it's 1 liter, even though it's over 100 horsepower, it's not really technically a super sports, right? It's like, although there are a lot of track-oriented things about it, it is not a sort of street legal race bike. And it also didn't beat, the ST1300 in top speed or, whatever else, right? This was just sort of seen as a more stylish kind of sporty tourer to be seen on than one of those bikes. But it didn't really edge out in the numbers. So this always kind of had a wishy-washy sort of, who was it for, right? Now, Swigs has chosen it for best bike in the world this week, and I'm guessing it's because for a Ducati, these bikes are almost free now.
They are pretty cheap. Yeah. But there's some other cool stuff about it. So, so this bike, dry, 440 pounds.
Yeah.
This is
for a touring motorcycle, that's unbelievably light.
Yeah. So ultimately, this is, in many ways, this is not going to be crazy power. It's not going to be the most reliable, But what this is that this is a Ducati that you can ride every day. You can have it as your commuter. You can have it as a tourer. It's, by all accounts, a fairly reliable bike, but it is still a Ducati. Now, if part of Ducati ownership is dealing with some bullshit maintenance, this does have belt-driven cams that have to be replaced every 2 years. So you get a little taste of Ducati nonsense with it. But overall, like, this is a Ducati for everyday life.
Well, the replacing the belts on these isn't, I mean, if you've never turned a wrench, then yeah, take it to a dealership to have it done. But it's not that crazy a job, right?
Yeah.
I mean, having never looked inside a Ferrari motor before, right? Like, we managed to get the belts changed on the 328.
Let's not pretend that was simple. That car was on the stand for quite a while.
Oh, for other reasons, but the belt change was actually the easiest thing. The worst thing was the air conditioning.
That's true, yeah.
The air conditioning, it had to be sent to, like, it wasn't just, like, parts had to be made by Tubes and Hoses. Tubes and Hoses had to have it for, like, a month to get the air conditioning fixed. It was a fucking thing. Anyway, no, replacing belts isn't, like, I would rather replace the belts on this than a GL 1500 Goldwing.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Any day of the week. You take off all the front fairings, which there's not as many screws as you would think. It looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that I can see to get them all off of one side. It may require taking them off of both sides. I don't know. We've got at least 2-piece plastics there. But the casing for the belts is just right on the side of the motor. I mean, now you're going to have to do shit to make sure that, you know, the engine doesn't turn or anything. And yeah, I'm sure there's procedures that, you know, to make sure everything lines up, right? But like, I mean,
you do on accessory belts on a car. You just mark the belts. You like mark each position on each drive.
Yeah, I mean,
you line it up. You mark them on the new belt.
I mean, you don't simply just like cut one of the belts, you know, with a knife and then put a new one on or what. It's not that, but like, I don't think it's that fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Of all the jobs people complain about doing on Ducatis, belts aren't usually the thing. It's the Desmo valve adjustment, which honestly isn't as fucking hard as people make it out to be. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes. But it's essentially just like adjusting Honda double nut adjustments twice. Mm-hmm. There's just twice the number of clearances you have to do, because you have to do the clearance open and the clearance shut.
Here's a question.
It's not that crazy.
Did your dad ever take that, when he had his Ducati, did he ever take it in for, like, routine maintenance? Like, did he have someone do the maintenance, or did he not have it long enough?
So that was a much less maintenance-intensive bike.
Okay.
But also, truth be told, he never put that many fucking miles on it.
Yeah.
Also, I told Dad there were jobs that he needed to do on it, and Dad was like, "No, you don't."
Really? Okay.
And he was wrong. He just managed to sell it before he had any fucking problems with it.
Because the only Ducatis we've had direct experience with were his, and then your brother, and then your brother's Monster.
Long term, yes.
But I know I think Ducati, part of what they get into when people say, "Oh, you're getting into all this maintenance stuff," is maybe not that the maintenance is super difficult or like a headache. It's that if you pay someone to do the maintenance, it's like $1,000.
So it depends what bike. It depends what needs done.
Mm-hmm. Like the service. I've heard like the service on Ducati is
well, again, it depends what service on what bike, right? If it's a Ducati V4 right? It like changing the oil is going to cost $1 bajillion, right? Truth be told, a human with a manual can do all of it. But it's not going to be as simple as, doing it on your Royal Enfield, for example. But, I mean, it's tedious and whatever, and people don't have the time. And really what it comes down to is people don't want to. And a lot of the people that would like to have a Ducati, like, so here's the thing. The people who are capable of maintaining a Ducati on their own are the sort of people that would just go, yeah, Ducatis are fun for other people to have. I don't need that in my life. Like, because they've messed around with things enough to know how these systems work. They go, yeah, so because I know what's involved here, I'm not going to buy this thing. Right? So the sorts of people who tend to buy Ducatis are people that have spent a lot of time specializing in something other than motorcycle mechanics. So they have the kinds of money to spend on a Ducati, and they, in the meanwhile, have not done a lot of late nights in the garage learning how random things on random motorcycles work. So you end up with a lot of like 27-year-old dudes who like work in finance buying Ducatis, and then the maintenance comes up and they're like, this might as well be like, like Stark Industries made this. I don't know how. So just drop it off at the dealership, right? But
it's a badge of honor for them when it comes in at like $1,100.
Yeah, Desmo valves don't work exactly this way, but it's not far off of basically just doing every valve on a 70s Honda twice. One for the clearance open and one for it shut. Like it's more or less that. It takes fucking forever, but it's not that fucking crazy. There are videos of it on YouTube. You look them up. It's not that, there's not that many tools involved. You need a set of wrenches and a torque wrench and feeler gauges, and that's it.
Isn't it really just like a cam to open the valve and a cam to close the valve? Like, that's essentially it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
No. People make it see that complicated because when you open it up and look at it at first, you're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff here. But like as compared to opening up a Yamaha, right, with like shim under bucket, and you're like, oh, okay, I've got to take it all apart, but there's actually not that many pieces to take apart. Like, oh, this is actually kind of simple and beautiful once you really get a look at it.
Yeah. Now look at this gorgeous 2000s era dashboard.
Oh my God, that is what I want on everything. It
has just what you need.
I'm not even sure if the Speedo has a backlight. Maybe it does. Maybe it does.
I'm sure it does. But yeah.
It's just like it's not even like Game Boy. It's like Mr. Game & Watch LCD display. I don't think there's like all that many different like modes to switch to. It's just let's make a bunch of shit digital instead of putting extra lights on.
If I started a motorcycle company, I would buy Tiger Electronics and dig up some of the old guys that worked on those handhelds back in the day, and I'd be like, you're now in the automotive display industry.
Yeah.
We'd put the Tiger logo in the corner. Oh God, that's like a fucking made up motorcycle right there. Someone needs to make there needs to be like a Tiger, like a 90s like Triumph Tiger, and they do like a bunch of like, crazy like zigzag jazz designs on it, and the LCD screen is like Tiger Electronics themed.
Peter, I'll do you one better. Your motorcycle has a Tamagotchi built into it, but there's no buttons to like feed it and do stuff.
You have to like pull the throttle a number of times. You've got
to get the bike up to 65 miles an hour to feed it. Like,
oh,
so right. If you don't ride every day, it dies.
That's good.
Maybe like one of the things is like when it grows up and when you have to change its diaper, like you've got to do a stoppie and get the rear wheel off the ground.
Okay, I've got to keep us moving here because we might be limited by camera time on this episode.
Yep.
Okay.
We're 30 minutes in. We need to get to worst bike in the world this week.
All right. Well, just to sum up, this is a bike that is very affordable, reasonably reliable. It's a Ducati. It's got the late 90s, early 2000s steel tubular frame, a full fairing, 90s levels full fairing wind protection. You're in the Ducati club, and it's got a relaxed seating position, and you can ride it every day.
I have heard accounts that they are way more comfortable than they look. I've heard this. If you've got to spend all day in the saddle of a Ducati, well, at first you probably want a Multistrada, but after the Multistrada, you want this. Okay, worst bike in the world this week is the Kicker 5150. Or really just any Kicker motorcycle. Now, Swigs, in Kicker, because you're not going to find this right away, it's KIKKER.
That's
a choice.
That is a choice.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Have you found it?
I think so.
So there are essentially two Kicker motorcycles, and what this is a kit motorcycle. I want you to guess what the base model goes for. And first of all, you need to know that that's not a good representation. Go down, in the center. Yes, that's probably more like a base model.
So are these chopper kits?
They would have you think so. Now, you also need to take a look at that one with the green wheels there for size.
Oh my. Okay, so this is like a 3/4. This is essentially like a 3/4 size Honda Rebel as a kit.
They are now. They were even smaller before. So this is a half-size motorcycle now. Before that, there was like a third-size motorcycle. Well, look, if you actually go up, actually, I think he may be on the older one. If you go up one level there's one with red wheels. That might be the new model. They come in two. That might be the same. I don't know. These are not full-size motorcycles. The kit starts at $1,650.
What? But
now
this looks slightly more sophisticated than a monkey bike, than like the monkey kit bike.
I think this is less sophisticated. Now, so this used to come for about the same price or a little cheaper. I don't know, maybe it was $1,200. It would come, you'd get a frame. I think you had to supply your own tires. You'd get a tank, and you would get some sort of engine and drive system and some sort of brakes and forks and whatever. And it would come with a 50cc motor. And that's still what it comes with.
50 cc's.
Yes. And what it comes with is basically a 50cc version of a Honda 70 motor, which would mount into the frame. And there you go. And you could replace it with whatever motor you wanted or something. Actually, it may not have even come with the motor for $1,600. You may have just gotten the frame, and they would be like,
go
source a Honda 70 motor and put it in here. And then, now, at that time, I would have said, okay, let's find the so that's a new one right there with the little V-twin in it, because they said, okay, well, people were complaining, and this is all over their website. You should find their website, Swigs. That's what we really need to be looking at, because they said, okay, well, the problem people used to have with these bikes was they didn't come with a title, and they weren't street legal.
I mean, searching for Kicker here might get me on a list, to be honest.
Yeah, the website is odd, too. It's not just like Kicker motorcycles. It's something...
Oh, this is like 90s GeoCities levels of website design.
Oh, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, yeah. So they were like, oh my God, these motorcycles aren't street legal or whatever. Customers are demanding a larger frame that comes with a title. It got to be large enough to hold a 250cc motor. And I'm thinking, like, as I'm reading the website, I'm like, these are just the bare minimum people usually ask for in just a motorcycle, right? Like, they'd like to be able to fit a 125 vertical motor or a 250 V-twin inside this thing. And I'm like, okay. So...
Yeah, there's a lot of mismatch between.
So for $1,600, you can get this frame and tank and awful brakes or whatever it is, and then like add your own tires, add your own engine, paint the fucking thing, right?
I mean, the dude's thighs in this picture are bigger than the engine. It's like it looks like a huge gaping frame.
Yes.
With this little thing sitting in it.
Now, there's a context in which this would be a great way to spend your money. And there is only one context, which is you live on some sort of farm or something.
I do just love this one we've got pulled up here. Here, I'm going to blow this up. This bike, the airbox, has an Iron Cross intake on it.
Oh, yeah. That's an extra accessory you can buy. Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
I'm on a list now. I hope you're happy.
Right. So again, they wanted to come up with a larger kit bike to appease their builder community. Now, this would be really cool if you bought one of these and, say, got your 12-year-old son involved and were like, this will be a great father-son project. We're going to build a motorcycle.
Okay.
Except no, because there's nowhere you can ride it because it wasn't street legal. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's say you get the street legal one now. Well, your 12-year-old son can't fucking ride it on the streets. Mm-hmm. So it's still pointless.
Yeah.
Not to mention that the thing is just frankly embarrassing to be seen on because it's tiny little front forks, hardtail with, sprung saddle is the setup here. Like, you just can't reasonably... I mean, I guess you could ride this places, but... you've got a lot more suspension on your average vintage Vespa.
Honestly, if like 50cc like two-stroke moped kit guys get more respect than this.
Oh yeah. So there is really no good reason to buy one of these. But also, it's not a family-friendly sort of wholesome activity because they put 3 fucking K's in the name. Right? Now, I can't get sued for saying this, but I have a little bit of a story this way. At the restaurant chain I used to work for, we were opening a new store in Cheyenne. Mm-hmm. And we were hiring for a new manager for that store. And basically, this was a store just managed all by managers of other stores for like the first month as we got new employees and trained everybody up and everything. This is just how we opened new stores. And everybody started getting weird vibes from this dude that we hired, whose name was Kevin Kreutzer.
Okay.
Kevin Kreutzer's middle initial was also K. And that's a choice. And you would say, like, okay, well, the dude had fucked up parents. I don't know. If it were me, I would have, like, changed my middle name at some point, or at least changed it, like, to start with a C or something like that. But whatever. Keeping it, that's another choice. Yeah. But then Kevin Kreutzer decided to try to launch a music career in the late 80s, early 90s under the name KK Kreutzer. That's a much stronger choice, right?
That's really leaning into it.
So I found his, not SoundCloud, his SoundClick account and made sure to share that with everyone at work real quick. So, and I believe it's still there. So if you want to look up KK Kreutzer on SoundClick, you should. Songs like Slave Girl and Baby Makers was a great take on modern feminism. These songs were something else, right? And the moral of the story is we took this to the company owner and we were like, besides the fact that everyone's getting super weird vibes off of this dude and he flips the fuck out like in a weird way whenever Kiss comes on the radio, like, look what we found. Like, pictures of like rebel flag like Dean guitars and this KK Kreutzer shit and songs like Baby Makers and all that kind of I think Modern Pissed Off Man was another song. Just all this fucked up shit where like we're still within 90 days. We recommend we just let this guy go. And they didn't. They went, well, I mean, yeah, his initials are KKK, but like that's not his fault or whatever. And I'm like, he named his band KK Kreutzer. Like, this is not this isn't hiding, like veiling something. This is in your face what this guy is about. Now, it's not illegal to be racist and weird. But he eventually did some shit that did get him actually fired. Okay. And we were like, the warning signs were there. Did you do no Googling before hiring this man? Right. This is the KK Kreutzer of motorcycles. Okay. Because this guy, kicker. The kicker motorcycle is the KK Kreutzer because much like his home-brewed like bullshit music tracks, right? It was just like a hard rock drum machine where the beat never changed, right? Just boom, 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 insert lame 80s guitar over it, right? This is done like this isn't a quote real motorcycle, because like sometimes people like someone will make a recording of a song. And if it's really good, someone will always say this super insulting thing where they go, oh, it sounds like a real song, right? It's as opposed to those fake ones that I used to write.
The highest of praise.
Yeah, right? So this, even the layperson can see, isn't a, quote, real motorcycle, right? Yeah. This is the garage band of motorcycles.
Yeah, what this
and it's probably racist.
It's probably right. Maybe that's what the Iron Cross is. Yeah. This bike does better in the Midwest than it does out west, because if you get out away from towns out west, you're more likely to have gravel roads or just dirt roads. In the Midwest, it's like you could still tool around on a bike that's not street legal and just hope a cop doesn't drive by because you already live out in the middle of nowhere. Like, this is like what my cousins, like what their neighbors would be riding with no license plate, puttering around. Like
this is for the one traffic light town 50 miles off the interstate, where if you see a car you don't recognize, everybody stares. Like,
perhaps.
Yeah.
The point
or they
is
just take
that
them on the gravel and don't care that is that a hardtail I'm looking at?
So if you find the website, Swigs, I don't think it comes with a motor. I don't think it comes with a motor. Maybe there is, or there's some places they recommend to go get one.
Look at this website.
It's so glorious. What our customers are saying. Well, first of all, that's not what your customers are saying, because if it was, half of it would have to be bleeped out. But I love that. Look at this. One of the customers' name is YZ Crasher.
I kind of like. These are clearly all just names from their forums. My favorite is
that is a total track rat. YZ Crasher.
I kind of like Trex Ducatus.
Oh, that's not bad either. So anyway, these motorcycles that they show pictures of. All right, so the HK3 is their street legal one, and again they display it with all these different. Yeah, look at the size comparison of the new Hard Knock and the old Hard Knock, right? Like the two models, see the size difference? Like one is straight up like the size of a Honda 70. Like one is the size of like a child's dirt bike, but it's a chopper, right?
That might be actually like smaller and lower than Alakai's bike. It might be smaller than the XR70, to be honest.
Right. So this is not a serious motorcycle, but it is obviously they're trying to portray it that way, right? But this is currently for sale. I know this website looks like some sort of like internet preservation project, but this is an actual live site, right?
The forums don't load. Tragic.
Hard Knock Owners Forum.
Yeah, but you can order one of these things. Like, I don't know why you would. It's so gross. It's so weird. But yeah, again, if you look at the specs,
$1,600.
If you look at the specs on the kit, there's a great photo of just a real like 6.8 of a fucking underwear model with one. Okay, again, I can't find any evidence that when you get this, they give you even the 50cc motor, which could only
Look at that. We may have to share some of these in the show. Well, if we, I think maybe we can.
I think we should, because this is honestly, I think, the closest to the bike you actually get with the kit. Right? This one.
That's why we're sharing it.
Oh, it's not the pinstripe body painting on this again.
On this topless model.
Yeah.
Again, this bike is...
You know that's got to be the company owner's niece, right?
Probably.
Again, this has got to be more than you get with the kit, though, because, again, I don't think it ships with wheels or a motor. You get this... you basically get a titled frame, but, like... Here's another thing that's great for a laugh. If you somewhere on this, I found the build sheet, because if you just order the kit at $1,600, but there's all these upgrades, right? So actually,
by the way,
this is upgraded because this has the Springer front end.
Yeah.
If you look at what the cost is for each of these upgrades, it tells a story. Like, please find them, because that Springer front end from the regular forks is, I think, like $80.
We're gonna have to either.
So what could the quality be?
Yeah. Although actually, I don't think we should put this in the show notes because we might get dinged for this. We'll put it on the Discord, maybe, or we'll put a link on the Discord. But yeah, I want to emphasize this topless photo is not something I found on an image search. This is on the website.
This is so amazing. Yeah. I want that to be on my next birthday cake. You know, you can like go get like a photo printed onto icing now. Like, that's,
oh my god,
it's great stuff. This is great stuff. So try, if you can, try to find the upgrade sheet. I think you can go up further. If you go to quote order, I think yes. All right, so let's just look at some of these. So $22 for a side. Okay, so if you want a front tire, that's $150. That's actually the most reasonable thing.
Yeah, but what tire are you getting? I guess it doesn't matter because you're getting jack shit for suspension anyway.
So the low-rise handlebars are $39. Okay, it is $200 for the Springer fork. Okay, we've got a $99 floating front brake caliper. $50 toolbox. Oh, Swigs, the Iron Cross taillight is $50. Look at this. You can add jockey shift for $40. You could make your bike noticeably less safe for $40.
Oh, you can get a helmet for $49.
The kickstart was $25. The speed sprocket, is that just a larger rear sprocket? I don't know. Mirrors are $40. Ooh, they'll sell you a helmet for $50. Well, $49. They'll sell you a jacket for $69. What kind of helmet and jacket is this?
See, here I bought a Shoei like a jackass when I could have bought 10 of this helmet.
I know. You'd be set for fucking life, Mike. Isn't this amazing? I haven't even looked at like the basic kit options where you have to select one to begin with. Those were all options. So, yeah, like click on like just the gas tank, or the seat springs or the rims. Oh, there is something for tires here. Maybe it does ship with tires. Look, you can choose rims and tires here.
Yeah, so you do get tires.
Oh wow! I need you to click on the tire select options.
It's black or black, apparently. One option is black, the other option is or black.
So it doesn't say like what kind they are or anything.
Nope.
It's
well,
just
the tires. Every single picture had like white wall tires in it.
Those are other people's built bikes,
Okay.
So
yeah, because they're like, oh, it's like, a builder's blank canvas. You get this and then impress the world with your custom chopper build.
So the only one that actually comes with any sort of title or documentation is actually $2,500. And it does come with a 49cc engine.
Wow. So again, for $2,500, what else can you get? And I'm even thinking like new. What can you get for $2,500? Swigs, let's go to the SSR website and find a better way to spend $2,500, because I bet it will not take us very long. I'll bet we will find something street legal that's over 175 cc's that comes with a title, not a title application.
Let's see what we got here.
This kicker would be a good candidate for taking on the Dumb and Dumber ride.
Right.
So this is on road, so these should all be titled. There's the Laser 6 for $1,600. What does that come with?
Well, it already looks better.
So there are 250 dual sports for $3,500.
Which is well worth the money.
Yeah, and then so what does the Laser 6 have? Oh, this is
Well, I'm guessing it's a 125.
Oh, this is a 49. No, it's $1,600, Peter. This is 49 cc's, 3 horsepower.
Okay.
You do get preload adjustable rear suspension.
Winning. Okay.
You get forks instead of the bullshit kind of Springer suspension. You get a front brake disc. You get? What else do you get here? I mean, not a ton. I mean, it's $1,600 to be fair.
Yeah, but it must come with something like a warranty. It comes assembled. It comes.
Yeah.
It comes painted. It comes
With a title.
It comes with a title. I mean, we're $1,000 below. I'm going with the Laser 6 before the Springer, but I'm also. It's not going to take a lot of convincing for me to go to fucking 250 Supermoto from SSR, right?
Yeah.
There's two of them here. There's the 250X Dual Sport and the 250X Street. I'm not really sure what the difference between these is. Is it a front tire size?
I think it's just
gearing
front.
option?
I think it's front tire size, and the type of tires they give you. I think one just comes with 50/50 tires, and then the other one just comes with road tires, maybe. Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going with the one with road tires. I'm buying this as a straight up like street supermoto.
Yeah, I mean, now what can we get in buddy scooters here? Because I'm pretty sure that's going to win out.
Yeah, because what was it? $2,500, $2,600 is what we had to beat?
Yeah, like 25.
I mean, honestly, you're beat by a $400 e-bike in most cases here.
It's true.
Well, no, I'm going to say a $1,200 e-bike to hit the same kinds of insane speeds as the fucking triple K kicker. It's going to be something like that.
I'm just wondering, what's the actual price on a Buddy 50 these days?
They're a little pricier than you think, but they are kind of exceptional vehicles. 100 miles per gallon.
Although you could just get a
fucking
Rattler.
bulletproof. Yeah.
What's the Rattler MSRP?
I'm going to guess somewhere around closer to 2,800. Well, for the 50cc?
2,400.
Oh, yeah.
No, really?
And it comes assembled. It comes assembled, titled, and it's got a 2-year warranty.
There'll be a dealer you can take it to.
Yeah, look at that.
You can. Does the Rattler come with a front and rear rack? No, it's just a rear rack, I think, on the Rattler.
Man, if only Rattler had 3 Ts, wouldn't be set.
I mean, the Rattler seats too. You can pick up girls with it.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, the 3K's kicker, like I said, it has no practical use in society. Mm-hmm. It doesn't, because again, it's weird with the 3Ks. It's turns out not as good as like a sort of father-son project as you would think it would be. But okay, let's just say they changed the name. And you spent $1,600 on the tiny one with your kid or whatever and put it together. And that was a great bonding experience.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck do you do with it after that? Because you can't ride it anywhere. Your kid can't ride it.
Yeah.
You can't even use it as a pit bike at the dirt track because it has no fucking suspension.
Maybe you can ride it around the compound on the Navajo.
Yeah, you can go visit your dad in prison in the middle of the Navajo public lands.
Or on the Colts compound, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can ride it around there.
Yeah, some farm somewhere where there's chickens running wild.
You can't ride it on a farm, though. This has to be on pavement. It's going to be unrideable if you're not on asphalt. You can't ride it down a dirt road. It's a hardtail.
Yeah.
It cannot be done.
Yeah, that's why I said Midwest, because like truly unpaved roads are a very sort of Western thing. Out east, you get like, you know, even the middle of nowhere will have a paved road going by it. It'll just be in kind of shitty shape with a bunch of gravel. But it'll still be asphalt.
Yeah, I don't know. whatever. Anyway, shitty bike. But this is, we've done some other kit bikes and Amazon bikes on the show before, but the larger model, they say, comes with a title. Or like, I think, or it's like a builder's title or whatever. It's not like it comes with a title in the sense that like it normally does from a dealership. There's some sort of paperwork and forms you have to fill out, or there's something, but it's not. Anyway. All right, we're at an hour, so let's get to our other topic here. Myths that people believe about their motorcycle. Okay. Did you guys do the homework at all? Did you come up with any?
I did. Did you, Swiggy?
I've got a few.
Okay. I'd like to go first because I've got to bail early tonight.
Okay.
And I tried at this assignment, and it made me realize that I'm terrible at motojournalism, and the internet is horrible. And what I really found was just the cesspool rock bottom of the internet. Like, everything I found was just some dude on a forum saying this. I think it didn't help that I literally, like, typed into the search engine, like, Ducatis are notorious for, and then...
Right. Yeah, forums are... There are no words.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is not journalism that I'm engaging in here. It's funny. It was funny as hell.
I wasn't really asking you to engage in journalism, Mike. I was just saying, let's come up with things that people believe about their specific not motorcycling in general.
Just their specific bikes.
So,
I mean, I did get a few things that probably count for something.
Okay, well, give us something. You said you wanted to go first, and then told us that you found the cesspool.
I did.
What have you got?
All right. One thing I found is that, first off, everyone on these forums, and half of these are on Reddit, and most of them start with the word bro. And But fill in the blank motorcycle are notorious for finding neutral. This was like about all bikes. Like, they said it about Aprilias, Ducatis, Enfields, Guzzi's. Like, I'm naming all the Italians, but it's like all bikes. They were just like, oh, these are notorious for, leaking oil. Let's see, what are some good ones here? Royal Enfields in India. This is a report from India. Royal Enfields are notorious for having like super long wait times when you order them. Ducatis, one guy said Ducatis are notorious for frying your balls.
So I'm thinking of things like this. People
Ducatis are notorious for requiring a great deal of mechanical attention.
That's close. That's not quite the essence of what I'm going for. So here's a good one to kind of start us off here, right? And it's not just the owners of these motorcycles. Kind of a lot of people believe this, but a lot of people think that when they buy a KLR 650, that they have to do the doohickey mod, right? This is a classic one. So if you don't know, there's this thing with it, and I'm not going to go into explaining what it is because I'll waste 5 minutes waving my hands in the air trying to explain this thing to you. But there's a part of the internals of this engine that's not all that hard to get to. And again, because people just fucking mess with this not really knowing what it is, they just call it the doohickey mod. And there's this piece that was made out of a less than super hard kind of plastic, and someone made a harder one or whatever. It was really only an issue, if it even ever really actually was an issue, in like the first year or two of the KLR 650. And people buy these aftermarket pieces for this engine, put it in, and then when they sell it, they're like, did the doohickey mod. And every time someone that knows what a KLR 650 is, sees someone with a KLR 650, they're like, did you do the doohickey mod? And they're like, thumbs up, did the doohickey mod. And then it's like, oh, great. This motorcycle shall now survive the apocalypse. But if you hadn't have done the doohickey mod, we should all be wearing a hazmat suit around it. It's so fucking dangerous. It's going to explode at any second. And no one does the 6 seconds of thinking that obviously someone at Kawasaki has heard about the doohickey mod. Right? But people do that. People are still buying brand new KLR 650s. They've been making this motorcycle for close to 30 years now. People are buying brand new KLR 650s and doing the doohickey mod. As if Kawasaki is just filled with people like running around with their underwear on their heads, just like taking every original doohickey piece and making sure they hit it really fucking hard about 20 times with a hammer before they put it in there, going, good, that's definitely gonna fail. That's how we build them. Right? Like, what the fuck? Right?
Yeah. So
this is the classic weird thing that people believe about their motorcycles.
I can give you a couple supermoto ones.
Okay.
I mean, I think we could all rattle off a dozen Harley ones, but that's low hanging fruit. So 2 ones. So particularly WR 450F guys genuinely believe that their street mods increase the value of their bikes.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
They think that like the change in the gear ratio, their new padded seats,
anything that says a service on it.
Yeah. All their little things, they think they all add value, and they don't. And the second is the guys who take their supermotos to the track believe that they're getting better performance on public roads by riding their track slicks on public roads.
Those are interesting ones. You know, I never even thought about this, but there is a lot of weird belief around certain bikes and tires as well. There are a lot of people that believe that like Ducatis need to be running Pirelli tires. Like, you can't put fucking Michelins on a Ducati. Like, what are you, fucking idiot? Has to be Pirellis. Preferably Angel GTs, but just Pirellis, please. I don't know what's going on with these people, why they have this belief. They're public roads. There are laws on how sharp a curve can be, how banked a curve can be. That they're fucking public roads. Any fucking tire will do. Honestly, the one I sent you in the email is a good one. For some reason, Harley Davidson owners believe, and I know why they believe this. For years and years and years, Harley Davidson told, or maybe still tells, their salespeople not to talk about horsepower, but to talk about torque. And because your average dude on the floor selling Harley Davidsons knows jack shit about Harley Davidsons, somehow, I don't know if this is actual Harley Davidson lore or this is just something that spread quickly around Harley Davidson dealerships. But I know this from knowing more than one person that has sold Harley Davidsons, that the salespeople tell the customers that you don't feel horsepower, you feel torque, which is not true. You feel the product of both of them together. but that horsepower is basically torque times RPM, more or less. But also specifically how many foot-pounds of torque the bike makes is a 1-to-1 ratio with how many cubic inches the engine is. Mm-hmm. So a twin cam 88 to Harley Davidson makes 88 foot-pounds of torque. A Milwaukee 8 makes 108 foot-pounds of torque. None of this is true. It's not even remotely true. There's all kinds, but this is just what they say because it's just something that fucking idiots can remember. Oh, the number that's on the side of the engine, that's the number you tell them it makes. Right? There we go. And because the Harley community is in severe denial about horsepower, a lot of people then just go, well, I don't know what the difference between horsepower and torque is, and then tell people that's the amount of horsepower their bike is making as well. So Harley Davidson people will believe that the number of cubic inches is their horsepower. This is an insane thing, but this is something that a disturbing number of people believe. And, I don't think it's half of Harley Davidson people that believe this, but I wouldn't be shocked if like a quarter to a third of them believe this. Most people are a little wiser about how reality works, but I don't know. It may actually be less only because when you ask people like what motor's in their Harley, you're more often than not these days to get the answer, I don't know. Like that's becoming shockingly common amongst all motorcycles though, Harley or not. But I have directly in the last 2 years like looked at people they've like walked in to a place with the helmet. I'm like, oh, what do you ride? Because I always do that. Someone's like standing in front of line at like Jimmy John's and they're holding a helmet. I'm like, oh, what are you riding? Oh, it's a Harley. Oh, what kind? It's a Softail. Oh. They won't give me a model. And I'm like, oh, what motor has it got? Oh, I don't know. Well, what year is it? Oh, it's 2019. I'm like, oh, you have a Milwaukee 8. Congratulations. It's like, oh, it's an 87. I'm like, oh, you have. I know what. Then I know what they have, and I tell them, and they're like. Then they get really fucking weird because I've just told them what they have, but they can't acknowledge me after that because I've shamed them somehow. Mm-hmm. Right? So they have to like end the conversation. And I'm aware every time this happens that that's what's about to happen. I'm about to end this conversation about motorcycles that I would actually like to continue, but I can't not tell them. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. There's something within me that I can't hold it back, And
but it's sort of like, oh yeah, I bought a house. It's like, oh cool.
How many bedrooms?
Yeah, how many bedrooms? It's like, I don't know. It's like, how do you not know? Like,
how do you not know?
You paid money for this, right? Like, you didn't inherit it. You didn't inherit this last week, and you've never seen it before.
Has it got a sprinkler system? Oh, I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I'll have to look in the manual. Yeah. Did it come with a garage? Oh, I think it originally did, but it's not on there anymore. Like what? Yeah.
I did encounter one thing that was about Harleys that seemed worth mentioning because, my list, it's a long list, but it's all just silly, ridiculous crap. But this one's probably worth talking about.
Okay.
So one guy said Dynas are notorious for the death wobble. So apparently there's this thing that you get into that it's not like, oh, I overcorrected and now I'm going into this death wobble. There's like just this thing with Dynas where this guy's just riding normally and then all of a sudden he starts to get this like crazy like
So the death wobble or the tank slapper or the whatever, right? There's a lot of people that like to think that this is like a classic Goldwing problem as well. So this is exactly the same thing. And if you look closely at a lot of just now when you start looking at Goldwings, especially older Goldwings, a lot of people, and this is a Harley thing too, they will buy a fork brace.
Okay.
And it's a piece of metal that just connects the two forks together right above the front fender to like stiffen it up. And this is bought in the hopes that it will cure their death wobble problems.
Okay.
Now, there are people whose opinion I respect that know a shit ton about motorcycles, probably more than me, that will swear up and down that front end shakes, front end chatter, right? Death wobbles, tank slappers, whatever you want to call them, are just a Goldwing or a Dyna issue, right?
Okay.
With Dynas, it stems from the fact that it does happen a lot, but it is not a problem of the motorcycle. It is almost always a problem of improperly set suspension, or even more commonly, poorly maintained suspension. Okay? Now, people will really think Dynas do this because Dynas are kind of big frame, big engine, big twin Harley Davidsons, but they have the smaller forks. And you know Harley guys, if it ain't big, it doesn't fucking work. Right? There's nothing wrong with Dyna forks. But maybe if a few more people, instead of putting fork braces on or whatever, or getting ridiculous handlebars or doing whatever, did something to like take a look at the condition their rear and front suspension was in, they might find that these problems go away. There are a huge I used to get front end wobbles on my Goldwing all the fucking time.
Okay.
And I rebuilt the forks and it got a little better. It didn't completely go away until I got new rear suspension. My rear suspension was so bad, it was fucking up my front suspension.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And as you know, like how often do people replace rear shocks?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
They wear out. Okay? I'm sorry. If your Dyna's from 1986, the rear shocks are going to be fucked. They cost like $120. Like, just fucking replace them. But people don't. All the damping is gone, and they're just on springs back there. What does that do? That shifts weight back and forth. Like, it unsettles the bike, and you get wobbles. Like, it fucking happens. So that is a really great one, Mike. People believe, like, certain motorcycles get these problems. It usually has to do, like Dynas or Goldwings, bigger bikes where people perceive the forks aren't the size that they should be to like ride up to like modern standards or whatever. Yeah. But like, do we honestly believe that Harley Davidson or Honda didn't do like 2 years of testing riding these things on public roads and around track? Don't you think they would have noticed these bikes being insanely prone to front end like tank slappers or whatever? Like, yeah. But you take any heavy bike, especially a heavy bike with fucked up rear suspension and dodgy front suspension, like it will fucking happen. I'm not saying everyone's dumb. It's just obvious to me. And let's say it is like a problem. You know, like, wouldn't Harley have been doing recalls on this at some point? Yeah. Wouldn't Honda like recalled the Goldwing? Wouldn't they have come like with something to compensate for this? Like,
yeah, the Goldwing specifically has a logo on it.
Why doesn't Honda make a fork brace? or just add a fork brace to the design of the Goldwing, because it was never needed, like the doohickey device. They were like, well, if you just have working suspension, it turns out this isn't an issue.
So there's kind of a similar one along for a lot of, it's not really a myth so much as just pure denialism, but there's lots of videos of guys on like naked bikes, particularly Ducati like monsters, who for some reason decided to record themselves riding really shitty and recklessly, then got into a tank slapper on the highway, and then for some reason that only they can answer to, they decided to upload it to YouTube and say, I got into a death wobble, there was nothing I could do. And it's like, it just happens. Like, there's a lot of guys out there who just kind of accept that this just happens.
The spirits put a death wobble in my bike. Right?
Another good, here's a good sport bike one. All the guys which is kind of the inverse of the don't use your front brake that Harley guys have.
Oh, yeah.
Is all the sport bike riders who say, you don't need ABS or I don't need ABS because I can outbrake ABS. Which, on a closed course, on consistent pavement,
with lines painted on the road, markers, and knowing that this emergency braking is going to be coming up,
I believe you. In that situation, you can.
But let's add a minimum of 2 seconds reaction time for starters.
Yeah, and then the fact that you're panicked, that you don't know when it's going to happen, and you don't know what the road conditions are going to be like.
Yeah.
I came across this one too, and it was a very general one, so I didn't bring it up because it wasn't about a specific bike. But it was just like people can outperform their ABS, just like myths about motorcycles. And this was a pretty reputable article from like 2023, and it said that in the early days of ABS, they were like noticeable, like you could really feel them kicking in.
The early days of ABS is the 1940s.
Well, no, in motorcycles, it was like the 80-something BMW was the first one that ever had ABS as far as motorcycles go.
That's correct.
Yeah, but back like in the 80s,
right? But
ABS,
BMW implementing ABS stood on the shoulders of the automotive industry.
Right.
They didn't just go like, "Oh, we've heard about ABS in aircraft. Let's just create a new system from whole cloth. Like start with a blank sheet of paper." That's not what they did.
Okay, so this reputable article acknowledged that 40 years ago, people might have been able to outperform ABS, but today, not possible on the roads.
Well, not only that, but nowadays,
that BMW, like early BMW
computers were the kicker.
Early BMW ABS, even kind of into like the very early 2000s, was prone to have like some issues after a number of years. But when that ABS was working as intended, it was no. I don't believe for a second, even in the 80s, that a normal human could outbrake it in
also nowadays
a situation where it's needed.
Also nowadays, higher end bikes where you have an IMU.
Are you leaving us, Mike, or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm gonna bail.
Well, just say that you're gonna bail. Like you're standing up all super quietly and weird. You're on camera, Mike.
We were talking about ABS, and I brought it up, so I was gonna let this wrap up before I left. I'm leaving. Bye.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Is that bad?
No, it was just you're trying to like leave like secretly, but you're on camera. I don't understand the thought process. Just say, "Hey guys, I have a hard out," and we'll be like, "Oh, that's fine. Goodbye.
Have a good night, guys."
All right, catch you later.
All right, so swing.
One other thing to add on to that is also like nowadays, if your bike has an IMU, bikes nowadays also come with cornering ABS, and when you
Right.
slam the brakes on, it doesn't, like, if you're in a turn, you slam your brakes on, it doesn't stand the bike up. Like, there's also a lot of additional advantages that you get nowadays with modern ABS.
All right. So what else have we got here? Like weird things that people believe about their specific bike. I had a list in my head, and I got to remember what they are. Have you got another one? Because I'm sure you'll jog my memory if you just bring one up.
I think just as a more generic one, like adventure bike riders thinking that they have like the absolute pinnacle of off-road technology, when in reality, a dirt bike is just vastly more capable.
Yeah, I think the idea that there are certain... You're right. There are people that think because they're on a BMW versus, a KLR 650 or whatever else, think that there's a lot more places they can go is a little so recently I was thinking to myself, what would be a really great stupid trip that we could take within the state of Colorado? And I thought, well, what if we got together some really dumb bikes to do the Colorado BDR routes? Right?
Yeah.
And basically what I came up with is, if we don't want to be rejetting bikes like fucking crazy, then we kind of need bikes with fuel injection, right?
Yeah.
But looking at the route and videos of people doing the route, even in the hardest places, I came to the conclusion that a Yamaha TTR will do it all just fine, or the Sierra, or the XT250.
Yeah.
No fucking problem. There's nowhere an XT, like a BMW adventure bike's going to go on the Colorado BDR, which is like one of the premier ones, right? We're talking about high elevations. We're talking about roads the width of the Tiki Room with 8,000-foot cliffs off to the side. Like, we're talking as adventure-y as adventure gets within the lower 48, pretty much. And a Yamaha XT250 would be just fine, because now they're, fuel injected. And I really...
It's the only modern feature they have.
Right, yeah. But I mean, seriously, though, there's just nothing you need, right? So I'm imagining, what are these adventures that people think that they need all this fucking clearance for? I don't know what it is.
The only real thing it is, one is you're carrying a lot more fuel, so you got more range. Your bike is literally bigger and can take a lot more weight, and you can basically load up more gear on it. And it is better on the highway. That's really kind of what you're getting.
Yeah, and those things are true. But, again, an XT250, I can put a rear rack on it with an extra gallon of gas and, on the back seat and everything, get my tent and everything that I need on it, right?
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're, especially if you're doing this with a group of friends, by the end of the trip, you're never carrying all your gear yourself. You kind of figure out over several days, like, oh, this thing of mine fits better on this bike, and this thing from this bike fits better on my bike, and things kind of move around a little bit, right? Especially if you're like us and we trade bikes. It's like, oh, well, this backpack started the trip on this bike and then migrated to that one. And things move around a little bit. Like water taking the shape of a puddle. It kind of all settles into where its most efficient spot is. I really need an XT250.
It's true, but you're never going to carry as much as the guy with the BMW with 2 hard cases and a rear rack and a tank bag. Like, you're just not.
Right. But I mean, when you're like, it's this weird thing about camping off of a motorcycle, because we did it with the Goldwings, the Goldwing, the Valkyrie, going down to Austin. We camped completely off of the bikes. But if we weren't going to MotoGP, we didn't need half of that shit.
That's true.
If we were doing the BDR, right, it'd be like, well, fuck showers, first of all. We're just going to spend a week being really filthy.
We could have skipped the 2 lawn chairs.
We could have skipped the chairs. Right. It'd be like, okay, we'll stop and we'll put up the tents. In fact, fuck having 2 tents. We'll have 1 tent. Right? Like, oh, we don't need these air mattresses anymore. We're gonna, have like rollouts or whatever. Oh, like, okay, we're gonna bring pillowcases and stuff like dirty clothes in them. Okay. All right. So then, we still would have needed like the frying pan, but I would have taken like the handle off of it or something. Right. Like, it's like we really could have pared it down to a lot less shit.
We just lost video.
Oh,
so that's our limit.
That's our limit. That was an hour and a half. That's what I thought it was.
It was pretty good. Yeah, we could have. I guess in the end, we'd probably like cut the handle off, and then we'd just put like a pair of vice grips on it or something. Like,
yeah, exactly. And then great, yeah, because things shouldn't only have one use, right? So yeah, if we were going off road, like at a certain point, storage is a liability, right? Which, again, the strongest evidence I have for this is it always comes back to the Goldwing, right? The most recent Goldwing, they took the storage down a little bit from the previous GL 1800.
Mm-hmm.
They decreased the fuel tank. Honda kind of realized, once you get past this many liters of storage, like, it's just a waste, right?
Yeah.
How much do you really need to be taking with you? What do you really need to take in and out of this motorcycle? And they kind of figured, actually, the last GL 1800, maybe it had too much storage. That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like you're never going to have as much storage on a motorcycle as you'll have in a fucking Ford Fiesta, right? It's just not doable. So you have to cut it off somewhere. And I think like the world has proven again and again and again that if you really need to, you can kind of just get it done with a rear rack and a box. And, if you need to, put some fucking saddlebags on it, even if the bike doesn't come. Like an XT250 with like those suede or leather saddlebags I've got hanging around the garage, and an aftermarket windshield and a rear rack that I've bungee cord some like random milk crate to. Like, I'll do the Arctic Circle, it's fucking fine. It's fine. Anyway, so I think we can just end this one pretty much here. We've gotten half an hour of our discussion here. We've done best worst bike. We've done whatever. We've got some sort of video element to this. The last few minutes of this will just be the show logo. Well, I guess I can't guarantee that this is going to go up, but I think it will. I think this will be the first video on the channel. And we may have to move. I guess here's what we can end up with. Let's give a description to people of what we actually want to accomplish with this video element. Right? Because people should know that not every episode shall have a video. And in fact, the YouTube presence may completely disappear after 6 weeks. We don't know. We said something about this a little bit on the last episode, which was it's basically just for the show's searchability, because the show's not growing anymore, because it turns out everyone that was going to own an iPhone and use Apple Podcasts or Spotify has done that. So that sort of natural growth stopped like a year ago.
Yeah, we ultimately just want something to add to put this on something like YouTube and just have the searchability of YouTube where it's way easier to get found. And honestly, most of the people who watch it there, we should kind of just funnel over to the podcast listens or whatever we can. But
yeah, personally, the idea of looking up podcasts on YouTube to then just be playing on my phone screen, wasting the battery just so I can hear the audio, is insane to me. I listen to every podcast through just
well, that's because
Apple
you're
Podcasts.
poor and you don't have YouTube Premium. Okay.
No, it has everything to. No, it has nothing to do with ads. Well, I mean,
No, YouTube Premium lets you play video with the screen off.
oh, I did not realize
That's
this.
a premium feature. It's a ridiculous premium feature, but it is one. But also, it's just YouTube is just there's just so many people searching on YouTube, and even if you're not like picked up by the algorithm and put in front of a bunch of people, you can still just reliably get a pretty good stream of people coming through just randomly. It's just such a higher volume, channel, like site. But yeah, we're just going to play with it. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a really dedicated listener that would be interested in picking out like 2-minute clips and putting them like on some sort of Instagram feed or something like that. I don't know. Someone that's willing to find someone that listens to every episode and wouldn't mind for free just putting clips out there. Because I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be really honest.
Yeah.
I already do too much.
In essence, we're doing marginally more work to promote the podcast. So
that's what all this is. So yeah, most of these are going. So yeah, again, if we're not recording here in the Tiki Room, we probably won't do a video at all. It'll just be audio and it'll just be with the show logo. But I feel like it's kind of a shame not to utilize the Tiki Room since we have it, right? I think it's a nice place to be. And I don't know, hopefully the listeners, I don't know, it sets us apart a little bit, I think. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think there's a lot of listeners who think maybe the Tiki Room is just pure fantasy.
Part
of me just wanted to show off, like, no, like, we do actually have this ridiculous Tiki Room.
Yeah.
It's not quite up to Disneyland standards, but it's a lot more. It's a lot more involved than I think a lot of people would think.
For sure.
I put some pictures of it on the Patreon, but that's most of our listeners are not on the Patreon.
All right. Well, we're rambling now. Should we wrap this up?
We are rambling. Yeah, let's wrap it up. So let's run the outro. Remind everyone to stay safe, stay tuned, keep fighting or fucking the dragon. If you can, just try to look up Noco Moto Podcast on YouTube and see if we can just get some plays out of this. Just to kickstart it off a little bit. I don't know.
How about we just put it in the show notes when it's up? On whatever episode we finally put it up, whether it's this one or the next one.
Well, the video exists. I mean, the camera recorded it. You're right. Yeah. It might be unusable. We'll see. Okay, let's run the outro.
And I don't want to die. I just want to ride on my motorcycle. Cole.